This is about my time and energy boundaries. Because what happened is this: my capacity changed, but my internal expectations didn't catch up. Instead of realizing this consciously and adjusting my expectations accordingly, my system adjusted for me by pulling me away from the things that required more energy.
Hi, I'm Barb Nangle. I want to welcome you to my podcast, Fragmented to Whole: Life Lessons from 12-Step Recovery. If you're tired of feeling fragmented and overwhelmed, this podcast is your guide to creating a life of wholeness, authenticity, and healthy boundaries. I'm a woman in recovery who is also a boundaries coach and speaker. I share raw and honest insights from my own journey and the principles of 12-Step Recovery. Discover how to set boundaries without guilt or shame, overcome people-pleasing tendencies, manage your emotions effectively, cultivate a stronger sense of self, and build healthier relationships. My approach is raw, honest, and sometimes a little bit, a lot sweary. I'm an avid beachcomber and a formerly closeted fan of the Hallmark Channel, especially Christmas movies. I wear fingerless gloves almost all year round because my hands are always cold. And I love taking pictures of license plates with my initials BN on them. I don't speak for or endorse any particular 12-step program of recovery. Though I'm a huge fan of 12-step recovery and a member of two such fellowships, I cannot speak for them. If you're ready for real talk and practical tools for transformation, keep listening.
This is episode 346, How Time and Energy Boundaries Help You Start Where You Actually Are. My theme this month is time and energy boundaries. These two are so closely tied because how you spend your time has everything to do with your energy. One of the goals in building healthy boundaries is to reduce things that drain you and expand things that fuel you. Today, I want to talk about some of my own time and energy boundaries, but not in the way you might expect. Not from a productivity standpoint or a scheduling standpoint, but from something much deeper. From what happens when your capacity changes and you don't adjust your expectations to match it, because that's where I've been lately. As you might know, unrealistic expectations of myself, other people, and the world has been one of my greatest challenges in life. I've come a long way in aligning my expectations with reality, but sometimes it crops back up and takes time for me to see. Here's some personal context. For my entire adult life, I have walked very regularly, no matter how healthy or unhealthy I was. No matter where I have lived, I have walked on a very regular basis. In the last 20 years or so, I've done yoga off and on, and sometimes even on a daily basis. Movement was just part of who I was. And then last spring, I got COVID. I was really sick for about 3 weeks. But I was sick for a total of about 7 weeks, and it really took me down. Now, as you can imagine, during that time, I stopped exercising completely, which makes sense. But what I didn't expect is that I never really went back to my old level, not even close. When summer came last year, something fell off. I live across the street from the New Haven Harbor, and normally in the summer, I walk on the beach every single day. But last summer, I barely walked at all. And I remember thinking something I've never thought before. This is too much. It's too hot. I can't wait for winter to come. And then I remember thinking, who am I? What is happening here? I've never felt like that. I like all 4 seasons and I appreciate them all and the transitions from one season to the other. This past fall, October and November were particularly warm, and I was very impatient with that, when normally I'd be thrilled because, truth be told, I really like winter, but it's often a little bit too long for me. Then winter came, and it was cold, snowier than it had been in 13 years. Yay! It was quiet, and I was excited. I loved the cold and I wanted it to stay cold. And now that it's getting warm again, I notice this resistance. Like, I don't want it to get warmer. I want it to stay cold. Now, this has perplexed me greatly over the last year. And every time I've talked about it with someone, I've said to them, who am I? I don't even know where this is coming from. I've never been like this before in my 60 plus years of life. A couple weeks ago, I got my annual physical, and my doctor mentioned that at my age, I really need to be doing strength training exercises, which I knew but hadn't been doing. So I went to my new best friend, ChatGPT, and said, okay, I need to come up with some strength training exercises. I'm not going to be going to the gym because I've never been like that. And I have a bunch of resistance bands. So let's come up with a routine using those rather than weights or anything like that. Now, it helped me come up with a routine that was pretty easy, only 3 days a week, 20 minutes a day. And I didn't do any of it. So this past week, I went back to ChatGPT and I provided all this context that I just provided to you. And it was in that processing where ChatGPT pointed out to me the connection between the illness and the stuff about the seasons. Now, obviously, on some level, I knew there was a connection because I knew to share that as part of the story, but I couldn't see what that connection was about. And to me, this is one of the most valuable aspects of using AI. Its power to synthesize an enormous amount of information and spotting patterns. Now, there's obviously lots of other value to AI, but to me, those are the places where I get the most value. Because of these two things, it's helping me to understand myself so much better. It helped me realize this isn't about the weather. This is about my time and energy boundaries. Because what happened is this: my capacity changed, but my internal expectations didn't catch up. Instead of realizing this consciously and adjusting my expectations accordingly, my system adjusted for me by pulling me away from the things that required more energy. Now, I want to say this really clearly. This was not laziness. I am not a lazy person. This was not a lack of discipline. I'm a very disciplined person now that I'm in recovery and have healthy boundaries. This was my system trying to protect me. After illness, burnout, or any kind of depletion, your body starts to associate effort with cost. So it conserves, it avoids, it pulls you towards what feels manageable. Before COVID, summer movement meant energy, walking on the beach, beach combing. After COVID, summer started to represent a version of me I just couldn't access anymore. I still felt depleted, and winter matched my actual capacity because I like to bunk in and snuggle up in the winter. So, of course, my system preferred it. This is where time and energy boundaries come in, because boundaries are not just about other people. They're about not demanding more from yourself than your system can currently give. Not living according to an outdated version of your capacity. Not turning shoulds into pressure. Now, I had no idea all this was going on until last week when it all came together when I processed it with AI, and then it all fell into place and I made the connection to boundaries. As I told my sweetheart last night when I shared all this, understanding all this and the connection feels like I've been let off the hook somehow. But I hadn't even realized I felt like I was on the hook for anything. Instead of trying to get back to where I was, I decided to build a new relationship with movement based on where I actually am now. I created a plan with the help of AI that's intentionally small. 2 minutes a day for the first week. A few sit to stands, a few wall push-ups, and a couple of planks. Done. I also created a chart with a checklist to track my progress with space to briefly note my emotions and physical feelings. I'll move up to 5 minutes next week, then 10, etc. Because the goal is not intensity. The goal is consistency. I love the quote, consistency in small things is no small thing. And if you don't know what that means, I didn't when I first heard it either, let me unpack that for you. When you are consistent in small things, it has an enormous impact on your life. So it's no small thing in its impact. But becoming consistent with small things is really fucking hard, because starting is really hard. So it is no small feat to become consistent with small things. So the goal is not intensity, it's consistency and rebuilding trust with myself physically. When my mind says this isn't enough or you should be doing more, I respond with I'm building consistency, not intensity. In fact, I wrote that on the bottom of my tracker so I don't forget it. I preempt my mind from saying that shit about it not being enough to me by reading that statement to myself before the day begins. If you're in a season where things feel harder than they used to, I want you to consider this. You're not behind. You're in a different season of capacity. Healthy boundaries are all about respecting your capacity. And your job is not to override that. Your job is to build from there gently and consistently. That's what internal safety feels like. And this is also how you build internal safety, by setting up time and energy boundaries that respect who you actually are and your true capacity in the present, not your capacity in the past and not some future capacity you hope to achieve. Your capacity right now. Do your boundaries fall apart the moment someone gets upset? Most people think the hard part of boundaries is knowing what to say, but real challenge comes after you say it. When someone gets upset, when your nervous system lights up, when you feel the urge to explain, soften, or take it back. That's where boundaries tend to collapse. I'm teaching a live workshop called Why Your Boundaries Collapse and How to Make Them Hold. It's live on Zoom for 1 hour on Tuesday, April 14th at 12:30 Eastern Daylight Time. It's all about the missing piece most people are never taught, which is how to build internal safety so you can stay steady even when emotions run high. If you want boundaries that actually hold, go to higherpowercc.com/collapse. Early bird pricing through March 31st.